So let me tell you about how free tacos led to a conversation about Jesus. So in January of 2018, I moved to Des Moines, Iowa to work as a youth pastor for a church. And when I was out there, I knew I instantly wanted to start ministering to people and telling them about Jesus and sharing the good news of God's kingdom. And so I started looking around town and trying to find out where are the spots that young adults gather. And I found this pub that was literally almost right across the street from my apartment. And so one day I drove over there and I went to go have lunch, and I sat down and there was a waitress and she came up to me and she said, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "Good, how are you?" And she said, "Great, what can I get for you today?" And I was like, here's the thing, I'm new here and I want to know what is your favorite thing on the menu. And she tells me their wings are amazing. And so I ordered the wings, had them, loved them. A week or so later, I went back to the same place, got the same waitress, and I remembered her name. And so I asked how she was doing, and she said, "Good." When she replied, "Good," it's something that I hear all the time, and I'm tired of when people just automatically say good. I wish we were just a little bit more authentic. And so I kind of just, changed the pace and the rhythm of the conversation. I said, "No, how are you really doing?" And so she went on to tell me how, if she were honest, she was pretty stressed out. She had a job interview coming up, and plus she had some pretty rude customers earlier that day. All I did was listen. And at the end of our conversation, I just wanted to make sure that she had at least one good smile on her face that day. And the meal only cost me $12, but instead of just tipping 10 or 15%, I ended up throwing down a $20 tip. Why did I do this? Because I wanted her to know that I simply cared about her. After so many months, eventually every single employee knew who I was. I was considered a regular. I would go in, I would give people high fives, I would walk anywhere I'd want, I'd be able to say hey to the manager, I'd be able to ask how people are doing. They would, if I wasn't there, they would text me if I was coming by that evening. I had started to build really solid friendships with these people. Now, a lot of these employees, they work from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. Some of them would work with no breaks at all. And so as I was looking for an opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus to these people, I saw a need that could be met. A lot of them were very hungry at times during their work shift. There was this really, really simple Mexican food joint not far, right across the street from this pub. And every other Thursday or so, I would go to that little Mexican joint and I would buy tacos for every single employee. With a bag full of tacos, I'd just be going around like,
"You get a taco, you get a taco, everybody gets a taco."
I know that may seem strange to some of you, and the question is, why did I spend so much of my personal money getting tacos for all of those employees? The answer is because I wanted them to know that I simply cared about them. That's it. I just wanted them to know that I cared about them. Even though I was only doing this to show them that I cared about them, eventually they began to become curious. They didn't know what I did for a job. And yet one evening, one of the waiters, he came up to me and he asked me, "Dude, what's your deal? Why are you doing this? Why is it that you come in here, you're super nice to us, you give us free tacos, you always are investing in us, asking us how we're doing, you even volunteer to stay late with us to help us clean the place just so we can go home a little bit early. Why in the world are you doing this?" I just laughed. I just laughed and I told him, "Dude, it's because I love you. I love all of you. All of you, you're my friends. And I love you, all of you, because I've been so loved." And right then, after almost a year of personal investment, I was able to have a conversation that went up to 4 a.m. about grace and truth and love and Jesus and the church and the gospel and all of these things. I was able to share the good news of God's kingdom with this guy. Now, this guy, he didn't like Christians. He was an agnostic. He had a lot of bad experiences with the church. His perception of Christians was that they were homophobic, that they were judgmental, they were closed-minded, they were just hateful. So how was it that this guy was able to hear the gospel from me? What was it that made me different from all the people who claim to be Christians? It's simple. He knew that I cared. And people want to know that you care, before they want to know what you care about. That is one of the biggest mistakes that Christians can stumble into when trying to share their faith. You have many people around the country today, people who stand in the streets with a bullhorn and a microphone. They're trying to just shout at people and just tell them all these awful things. They think that scaring people into heaven is something that God smiles about. Those people are ridiculous, and they'll eventually find out that they're going to be last in heaven. And then you have some people who they go to universities or wherever and they host these arguments, and they think that somehow proving someone wrong is going to convert them to Christianity. But those people are also widely mistaken on how you should actually share your faith. Listen to me, if you are a Christian, even if you're not a Christian, if you're just a person and you want to be able to share what you care about, if you're trying to convert someone to Buddhism or Islam or Christianity or atheism, or I don't care what it is you're trying to convince people of, what I want you to understand is that people want to know that you care before they want to know what you care about. That is the only way in this generation that is actually going to be successful in persuading and showing other people what it is that you believe. This is why social media arguments never go well. I get into them all the time, and I really wish I didn't, because the lack of personal relationships sets you up for failure. Listen to me, it is so important that we understand how to properly share our faith. Jesus was a wonderful example about showing people that he cared before he told them what he cared about. Now, we've talked about this passage before in a different video, but in Matthew chapter 9, Jesus was invited over to a tax collector's house. Later, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. But when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with such scum?" Jesus was invited as a dinner guest to a tax collector's house, along with other tax collectors and other people who were genuinely disliked by most of the community. He was invited as a dinner guest because they believed that Jesus genuinely cared about them. Now, in those days, you have to really understand how architecture is set up, especially like interior design. They didn't really have chairs like we do. I mean, some places had chairs or benches, but the way that like this house and a tax collector's home, that Greco-Roman influence, they didn't, for a really fancy rich person, they wouldn't have chairs. They would have like cushions. And these couches and cushions, they were designed to be set up as like a reclined posture, like you are chilling. So when you were eating dinner, you were relaxing, you were chilling out. You see, here's the thing, Jesus would have been chilling with the people that you tweet angrily about. Just saying. Now, Jesus also preached the good news. He didn't hold back truth, but the reality is those people, they were able to hear what it was that he had to say. He goes as far as to say that they were like sick people and he's the doctor. Now, they were only able to hear that. They were only able to hear those news because the reality was they believed that he cared about them. And because they knew that he cared about them, they wanted to hear what it was that Jesus cared about. So if you want to convince someone of your beliefs, you first need to show them that you care, that you genuinely care about them. So what are you doing to show others that you care? Are you tipping your waiters and waitresses? Tip well, because they remember. And I'm talking specifically to you after church Sunday crowd. Now, I was talking to one of my waitress friends back when I was in Iowa. I asked her, who are the worst tippers? You know what her answer was? The after church Sunday crowd. Want to know why? Because typically a normal average person who goes to church, they go to lunch right afterwards and they think to themselves, well, I already tithed, I already gave money to the church today, so I don't really need to tip as much when I'm here at lunch. Oh, okay. Remember, waiters and waitresses, they remember who tips well and who doesn't. The people that you want to believe what you believe, are you being consistent in their life? Maybe you need to do what I do and just give out free tacos to people you've built relationships with. Like, I honestly hope I can be the kind of person who, despite being a Christian, is invited to like an LGBTQ party or an atheist convention or whatever. Not because they expect me to agree with them, but because they know that I genuinely love and care about them. And because they know that I care about them, they will want to know what it is that I care about. So how is it that you can show others that you care before you tell them what it is you care about? You have to simply love Jesus. You need to let everything you are and everything you do revolve around a lifestyle of loving Jesus. You have to choose to let God's love for you influence your love for him so that his love can overflow out of you and onto the world. You have to be the kind of person who reflects and just sits and thinks about Jesus' love for you, and you let that stir you up for a desire to know who he is. And when you know who he is and you know what he loves and you know who he loves, and you get to seek all the people and love the people that God loves because you know just how much God loves people, and you share that desire, and you want to go into your schools and go into your workplaces and go wherever you are and influence and help people understand just how amazing Jesus is. And you do that by showing them you love them and you care about them and you are there for them and you will provide for them and you are going to be generous towards them. That is how you show people that Jesus cares about them, by being the hands and feet of Jesus, being the person who's going to go the extra mile to show others that you care about them. People want to know that you care before they want to know what you care about. Are you showing other people that you care?